Hello and welcome. I'm just getting this stream set up here. Let's have a look at why my game capture's not working. Should work, shouldn't it? Do I need to hide the window? Ah, I do. Here is the window. Right, I'll just mute myself as well. Cool. We're up. Thank you very much for joining us. We are going to be doing a Q&A session about the new game. I hope you enjoyed the trailer we just played. We are going to do a Q&A session, so if you would like to ask any questions, you can do at the URL in the top left of the screen. It's geometer.co.uk/questions. We are also going to do like an alpha, like a closed access alpha, not today, but in the coming weeks. If you would like to apply to do that, just join the Discord and use the /verify command. You can do that below, and of course, please do go onto the Steam store page there, and if you would kindly wishlist the game if that's something you're interested in. It does help us a lot in terms of visibility to Steam and so on. So yeah, let's get started. This is Anymaker. It is our new game. It is a vehicle building and I guess structure building survival game. This is the main menu. What I'll do is I'll suggest we kind of jump into a creative game. I'll show some of the building tools, I'll show some of the vehicle building, and then later on we could maybe play a little bit of the survival side of the game and check that out as well. I think we're going to stream for I guess an hour to 90 minutes. Yeah, let's get started. I will click on the game here. I will go to a new game. I'm going to select the creative mode. This is a very early alpha version of the game. I suppose it's pre-alpha. We've not started the alpha yet. So the UI is very simple, but it's functional, and it's about getting the function working, as I'm sure you're all familiar with. That's kind of just what our focus is and our priorities work. I did also show the question answer website a moment ago. I'll just have a look. We've already got quite a lot of questions. So what we'll do with the questions while the game's loading, I'll just discuss the questions for a moment. Please do submit your questions. The way this works is everyone gets one question each. So feel free to bide your time. I'll try and get through as many as we can. I think our turnout's probably going to be pretty good today, so I don't know whether we'll be able to get through everyone's questions or not. We did at the last Q&A for Stormworks, but I think this might be a busier event. I'm not sure. And there's also the question. The answers are going to be super long because there's just so much to discuss. There's so much detail to go into. But what I'll do is, if you're the first to answer a question or the last, we'll make sure everyone gets a fair chance. So I do have the button on my questions page. I can click the shuffle button, and that just randomly shuffles the questions, and it'll just mean that we answer them in a random order. I'll reshuffle every 5 to 15 minutes. So yeah, we are in game here. It's currently raining. Now, there's something kind of to note here. You can kind of see this blue line over here. This is a creative game. We are in the creative dome. So this is an area in the game where when you're playing the creative mode, you start off in this creative dome. You can see you see the edge of it there is just the blue edge, and in the creative dome you spawn with all your stuff that you've unlocked. So you unlock stuff in this game, so we can kind of go up to these boxes. This is the inventory screen. We can see here we've got a wheel component's the only thing in that box. They're all categorized, so all the different boxes are different categories. I think over on the left here is mostly clothes. This kind of olive green one. Oh no, sorry, this slightly brighter green one here is the vehicle editing tools. This is quite a useful one. We'll just grab a few tools to start with, and you can see I'm just dragging them from this. You got infinite of this stuff because we're in the Creative Dome. These are the spawn boxes. These are your unlocks. The stuff you've unlocked, you get infinite while you're in the Creative Dome. I'm just going to grab a couple more tools, and yeah, don't worry, we'll talk through all of them. And to use tools, you do need to drag them down onto the bottom here. So I'll just do a bit of that. Yeah, let's start by, I guess, having a brief view of some of the questions, but I think also I should just kind of give an overview of the game as well. So we'll say, oh yes, of course, one thing to mention is that all games can have multiplayer toggled on. So I'll just go to multiplayer here. I'll say it's open to friends, and I'll click apply changes. You can do open to invite code, and if I applied that, it would just generate an invite code, so I could invite people who weren't my friend. But well, I suppose you wouldn't be able to join anyway. But yeah, that's I think another developer may join us. I'm not sure. So they will be able to join now. I've done that. I will go over to the website for 1 second. I think what I might do is just turn this on so you guys can see what I'm looking at. I'll just refresh this page. We don't need this one anymore. I've set the store page live, and I'll just click shuffle 3 times. Once, twice, and thrice. Okay, so they should be nice and shuffled. Oh, 2 pages of questions already. Okay, so let's just go through a couple, and I'll go back to the game, and I'll maybe play a little bit of the game as we go through. We can see another player is joining here. It's just another developer. It's beginner. So let's get started. The first question is, I saw zombies. Are zombies a game mode you can optionally choose, or are they always there? So right now they are always there in the survival game. Now we're in the Creative Dome here. They will not come into the Creative Dome. There's also wild animals, and some are aggressive, and they also won't come into the Creative Dome. So the Creative Dome, you also restore all your health, and you can't take damage. So it's kind of the safe building space. It's kind of like the workbench of Stormworks kind of thing. It's the safe building area. But then as you go into the survival part of the game, then yes, there are threats to you. There's consequence to the world, and yes, there are zombies in the world outside of the Blue Dome. We might add a mode to turn them off. We might not. I think we'll look at player feedback. I think to get unlocks in the game, you find items in the world as you're playing the survival mode of the game, and that unlocks stuff. I think you'll probably only be able to do that in the kind of the career mode. So but then you can kind of come into creative afterwards and play with all the stuff you've unlocked and experiment and so on. Will there be boats and sails? So I suppose with a theme with this video, I think I'm going to have a lot of similar questions where I guess I'm being asked, is this feature going to go in? Is this feature going to go in? And I'll just kind of qualify that before I start answering with, well, I don't think it's a good idea for me to be committing to stuff right this moment before we've actually had other players play the game, and I think we'll be more willing to, I guess, commit to doing further development once we've, or specific areas of us. Sorry, obviously we're already committed to doing further development, but what I mean is the specific areas that we're going to develop. Probably we should give players the chance to play and give informed feedback first. So I'm not going to give any kind of like firm commitments on, yes, we promise this feature, yes, we promise this feature, but I will kind of make a general comment that we don't have marine right now. I think it's kind of an obvious area for expansion. Today we'll be looking at small vehicles, cars, jeeps. Other areas that I think kind of make a lot of sense to the game is stuff like larger vehicles, like trucks and so on. We're looking at the potential for helicopters. I might show some parts for that later. Small planes, potentially. Marine makes sense. I think trains make sense. We haven't stress tested the vehicle building side of the game. I mean, the game's not really intended for super large creations, so I don't know what the limit for the size of creation will be. I think what you'll be seeing today is smaller vehicles. I imagine at this point I'd probably be kind of comfortable saying the vehicle could handle something as large as, for example, a Chinook helicopter. In the alpha, you'd hope that we'll just develop on the optimization and enable larger vehicles as we go forward, which is a similar thing to we did with Stormworks, but I don't know. So yeah, to answer that question, boats and sails, not committed, but we'd hope that we would add submarine at some point in the future. Next question is, there was a helicopter in the trailer. Are there vehicles other than land vehicles you can make? So yes, I think I've just answered that one. I think the helicopters are hopefully coming, but I can't say when. Maybe some point during some round of the alphas. But I think helicopters are quite exciting. What is the expected price to be? I think that yeah, so I mean, there's no final decision. I think it's going to be comparable with other games on the market. I think probably a very comparable or relevant game at the moment is The Last Caretaker. I know that's been very popular and done well. The price point of that, which I think is $30 or $35, is a realistic expectation. It's going to be around there simply because it's a comparable game, and I think actually you'll have a look around the store. That makes sense. And also, if you benchmark it against Stormworks, well, Stormworks is 25. I think it's 25, but we last increased the price of Stormworks. I think it was 2021 or 2022. So there's been significant inflation since then. So, you know, if you compared that to when we priced Stormworks, it's kind of a similar point as well. So I think that kind of makes sense. But no final decision's been made on that. I'll answer maybe 2 more questions and then we'll get started on showing how the building system works. Will there be a better building system for bases? I mean, the answer is kind of, I suppose. We might show some building stuff later on. These buildings that are around me, they are made using blocks in the game. So, you know, you can go and we can start like removing pieces from them. And, you know, they're all made from blocks. And we've just made the set of blocks to make this kind of building. You've got others, I think over here we've got some 2-story buildings, so you'll see a bit more of that as we go through. And the next question is, how is the logic going to compare to Stormworks? So I think let's get building, and I'll just show some of the building basics in this game so you've got an idea of what the fundamentals are. So it's tool based, so we're not going to go into a dedicated editor. We are going to edit in first person, and I suppose the benefits to this is that it works better in a survival context, and it also just makes it kind of like a bit more intuitive. We've got cooperative building as well, so you're just in the same simulation, so as I build, other players can see what I'm building. It also means that you kind of get the instant feedback. You don't need to spawn in order to test the performance of something, and you can have this tighter iteration loop. Obviously the disbenefit is in some ways it's less convenient. I'm not going to pretend that building in without a dedicated editor is better in every way, but it's definitely better in some ways, so we'll have a look at some of those. So you can see here I've got my, well, this is called the edge tool. and I've just built an edge off a surface here. So you can see it's all grid based and you're snapping to grid. The grid is 8 centimeters. So these blocks are 8 centimeters in size. So they're about a third the size of a Stormworks block in every dimension. So you'd fit 27 3 times 3 times 3 of these smaller blocks inside a regular Stormworks block. And that feels like quite a nice size to be able to do the level of detail that we're interested in doing. So you saw me, I just dragged this thing, this line out. I can drag more lines out. You can see I'm just drawing on this flat plane. It just picks the plane based on the direction that the camera is facing when you start the drag. And of course it's showing me, so I'm going to build 8 in that way. I'll just hover here and I'll go maybe 8 in that way, 6 this direction. Let's go all the way across. Just line it up there. I'll close the loop and you can see I've built myself a little frame. Now let's say we want to do something a little bit more interesting than just on the axis. We can, for example, I could make some scaffolding here and then I can just drag point to point so we can have these angled pieces here. And then if you want to go as a 3D line as well, I can just drag like this, and of course you can see it's still on the grid, but it just gives me the dots where it intersects exactly with the grid. So you can see there's actually just that gradient just happens not to hit a voxel until this point, but it has hit at the center of a voxel on this point, so I can and I can just drag to any of these other voxel points here as well, so I can do a bit of that. And of course if I want to erase, I can just hit it with the tool there. Now let's have a look at the next tool, which is the plates tool, and I can just build a panel like doing this. So I've just built a panel there. If we go around the back, we can see it's like a plate, as if I've got some sheet material like sheet steel or something and kind of welded it, or another material glued onto the frame. So yeah, that's how the fundamentals of building your vehicle framework. I might just erase some of these just to kind of clear my workspace up. But they're the kind of the 3 tools you'd use to build a frame. What else did I do? I did grab my duplicate tool. We'll get that out later. I think what's this question? Yeah, so how is the logic going to work? I will answer this question. If I may, I will just kind of get to it, because I think it probably makes more sense that I just talk about the basic components first. I think what would possibly be quite an interesting thing to do would be maybe to look at I mean, let's just go in deep, because I'll probably just start by showing you some of the more complicated stuff, because I think it's important in, I guess, contrasting this against Stormworks and explaining what the fundamental differences are between this game and Stormworks, and what the design decisions are that I think make this game kind of interesting. And you know, as I've kind of previously said, I'm not necessarily saying that this game is better than Stormworks in every way. It's certainly different. I don't know whether we'll be able to make a game that is, you know, obviously the small block, just in terms of having that extra detail, could potentially be a hindrance for some creations. You know, like if you want to make a really large creation, then having to build it with blocks this small, it's going to be a pain. You know, it could potentially be very time consuming and a bit annoying to do. So but then you compare this to the power it gives you in terms of authorship. I think it's going to make a very interesting vehicle building game, and I'm having a lot of fun playing it myself. I can see that the developer has gone wheels searching. We've grabbed a couple of wheels. This is a starter vehicle that you just kind of get in the survival mode game as well, just so you can. There's a bunch of these wheels hidden around in the starter area. You can find them, place them on the starter vehicle. I think we'll remove the batteries, so you've got to attach the batteries. It's meant to just be a simple kind of UTV style farm vehicle that you might just, like an electric operated one, just so you've got a vehicle at the start. It's not very good. It's kind of not meant to be. You know, you can build much better stuff than this yourself, or you can, you know, add to it as you play as well and develop it. but it's just a starting frame. So I'm going to start by, now you'll have to excuse me, I am going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to spawn some items here because I haven't unlocked everything, and actually some of these petrol engine parts, you're not meant to be able to use them at the start of the game. That's the wrong one. Type it here. So let's grab an engine component. Now you can see here it spawned on the bar, and I can just scroll between my items here. I'm going to place it down. I think the first thing of interest here is I've placed it, but it's not actually fully placed yet. We've got these blue arrows. So what I can do is I can drag these blue arrows out, and it's like a bit of a smart component. So it gets bigger and smaller, and some components stretch, some components don't. In this component just stretches along this one axis. Other components can stretch on 2 or even 3. So it means that I suppose we can add one component and it can be any size potentially. And then I just right click to commit and it's placed down. This is the base engine block component. You can see here, if you know Modular Engine from Stormworks, well, I suppose this is Modular Engine's attempt to. I think I quite like it though. I think players will generally enjoy it. I'll show a little bit more now. It is more modular than Stormworks. So there's a general concept here that we've got fewer components but they're more powerful. And there's more component combining. So I've placed my engine, but as you can see, it's one component, but it can be any length. I'm now going to place my gearbox down. Again, this one is also extendable on the one axis. I think as you extend it, you get more gear steps in the gear engine, so in the gearbox. So you've got fewer gears, like 3 or something, and then 4, 5 gears, and so on. So you can have a longer gearbox if you want more gears. Again, I just right click to commit that. And that's that. We've taken some of the concept of the modular engines from Stormworks. You'll be familiar with the fuel manifolds and coolant manifolds and so on, and we've taken that a lot further. So we can start accessorizing this engine now with a bunch of different stuff. We've got these kind of mating surfaces on the components. You'll be familiar with some of that from the modular engines as well. But we've just kind of taken that and run with it a lot more. So if I was to show a couple more components here, let's grab I can't remember what they're quite called. I think it's an engine wheel, and then I think the other one is a pulley wheel. Whoops. And what else do I want? I think I want a motor. See, we've got quite a few components already, and again, you know, I am cheating with a type in here, but normally you just kind of go and just grab the bits. And of course, I can also, these are first-person items, so I can just drop them, and they appear in the game world. And this is how you'd find them when you're doing your looting as well. So in this case, we've got this engine wheel that attaches here. I'm going to also, I think, place a motor where is convenient, probably there. And you can see there's my motor. I'm going to put a pulley wheel on here, and then I think I need a belt tool. Now there's a few different things. Yeah, I'll just show the belt tool. Quite pleased with the belt tool, to be honest. I think I'm going to enjoy showing it off. So we've got the belt tool here, and so this is a concept with the tool items. They also render different, I suppose, debugging information. So in this case, I get the belt tool out. It renders the belt nodes. So these are, you know, if you're familiar with Stormworks, you kind of understand the concept of linking nodes together. In this case, we've kind of split the stuff more onto layers. when you've got the belt tool out, it's a torque system. The belts are a torque system, so it also renders the torque information. So in this case, you can see that we've kind of got the electric motor here, which shows this kind of this torque element. We've also got a torque connection here that connects to the engine. Here we've got the gearbox, and you've also got these two little circles of dots. And when the engine's running, you do see them turning, and they will turn at different speeds as the gears change, so you can have more insight into what is going on under the hood. We've got a bunch of this for different tools. As we go through, you'll see we've just got different layers that render when you've got that tool out. And this is one of the great things about having the kind of in-simulation vehicle building, is that this is already spawned in, we're editing it while it's spawned in, and we get the immediate feedback of what is changing with the vehicle. Here I'm just going to set up my pulley. It's spawned a pulley wheel. That pulley wheel, animates, and these wheels turn as the engine's running and so on. But we can also do other stuff with the pulley wheels. If I just slap a few more wheels down here, we can actually edit the belts. The belt only renders when you've got a valid pulley, so it's going to stop rendering now because that's not valid. But then we can just kind of do a bit of this, I think. And that's now going to render. You can see this pulley wheel, it kind of looks a bit weird. But what we can do is we can, yet another tool, and the quite nice thing about the various tools is that it does limit the information you're seeing. You can see here now highlighting, and it's doing different highlighting. It's showing us objects that we can modify the properties for. In this case, we're going to go to the pulley wheel, we're going to reverse its direction, and you can see it's changed the rendering, so you can kind of do all your wheel systems. Obviously this is completely unnecessary, but if I was to give you an overview of the engines, I would say, well, we're going to need some pumps as well. We've got our electric motor, but we could do with an oil pump. We need a coolant pump. We need an alternator, ideally, as well. So you do end up wanting to have a belt system that does connect the torque of a bunch of different items. And so it is very detailed. There's a lot of modularity to it. But you can already see this is starting to look a little bit like an engine, and we've barely scratched the surface. This is quite far from a working engine, but that's a little bit of the overview of the tool. There are the various different systems here. It's going to be difficult for me to just list them out off the top of my head, but we've done the edges, the plates, the remove tool. We've just looked at the belts. There's the torque, which is kind of an implied system, because that you just kind of connect the pieces together and they just kind of connect, they just work. We can put a drive shaft in, we can put gearboxes in, we can put wheels on and so on, and the fact that you connect them, they just show up in the debug rendering stuff. And I think if we go over to this vehicle here, we might see a little bit, because some of this stuff should be connected. Oh, it's just connected to the front. It's a very simple vehicle, so we can see there's a motor there with a drive shaft connected to the two wheels, and if that motor starts turning, you start to see these little wheels turn, so you can kind of understand what the actual motion of the various elements is doing. So you've got that in terms of that stuff. We've got the properties tool. You just saw me changing some properties. We can change the name on some components. The way the sounds on the engines work is you've just got a bunch of options. In this case, you just select. They're just numbered at the moment, but that would change the sound the engine makes. And this is another concept. Moving from Stormworks to this game, we're, I guess, specifying less of the vehicle behavior through what we're doing, and we're giving more to the player. So in that case, the player can decide which sound effect they think is best for their vehicles. It does mean that players can kind of, choose the wrong sound or the less realistic sound or whatever, but I think we're kind of giving that control over to the players willingly. So there's a ton more tools. There's a temperature tool for measuring temperature. There's the logic tool for programming the microprocessors. You saw a moment of that in the trailer. there's just a moment where we show you. It's kind of a Scratch style drag and drop code editor. There is also a button so you can temporarily save your current edit window out to a text file. You can then go and just edit that text file in any editor and then click the button back in game to then re-import it back in. So it's very convenient and very easy to do if you prefer to do your code in text editing, or you just want to save a script, or you want to paste something in that someone gave you on Discord, or whatever you're doing there. It's a convenient way of dealing with code if you prefer typed code. But the code editor is amazing. Without patting myself on the back too. It's the development team that made the tool really, but let's have a go. Now, I can't quite remember what the component's called. It's not controller. Yeah, it is microcontroller. Nice. Okay, I'll just quickly show this because it is rather interesting. So we need the actual path, then we need the editing part for it. So I'll just slap a microcontroller down here. We'll whip out the editor, and you can see here I can edit it. Now, I'm not going to start making a script, but you've kind of got these elements that you can just kind of drag and drop in like this. It's telling me there's an error. That's live, it's just regenerating the errors live, so you just see there's an error immediately. It displays it visually, it shows you where it is. You can save and load your stuff. You can also debug. That's right, there's a debugger. You can pause, you can place breakpoints down. Here you go, I've placed a breakpoint there. You can click pause, you can step. We got undo, redo, and then here's your editing window where you can drop your parts. And it's pretty complete code editor and code language. There are some limitations to it. It is a new language that we've invented, but it works very well for the game, and there's some really big benefits in generating our own language rather than using something like Lua. And it's because you can't have the debugging, for example, in Lua in game. It just doesn't work in this context. We can build a language so it's convenient and an interface as well for the players. You don't have to do programming if you don't want to. It's a feature of the game that you can get into if you do want to. But actually, I'll show you stuff that just works completely mechanically. I've got engine example that we can check out in a bit. My sound is actually off here. We could just turn the audio on a bit. See if that's too much. I'm not getting any game audio there at whatsoever. I don't know why the game audio is not working. This might be a bug, and it might be because I started the game with my audio turned off. So that might be a bug we have to fix. It might just be worth me actually restarting the session here in order to get the audio working. But I could potentially do that while we just answer some more questions. I'll just save this game. And beginner, I will just exit to the main menu. In fact, I'll close the game and I will jump in a sec. I don't think he knows he's going to pop up on the stream, but I'm just going to appoint some mods on Discord as well. So let's just close the game for a sec. We'll head back to the window. I will oh dear, okay, so I should have sorted this out earlier. I'll have to quickly make a I don't think I can do it without I've actually got to make a roll here because I've not done it yet. changes, and let's give them the permissions. I think that's everything we need, and I'll just apply that to, just click save, and I'll just go and apply the role to the relevant people. Yep, okay, so Anti is now moderator, and Beginner is a moderator, and let's see if I can. Yeah, so I'm in OBS mode, so I can't actually see people's names. I was gonna promote my other friend to be moderator too, but I can't find them. I'll have to give up on that. I'll have to leave it to Anti and Beginner. Cool. Right, so let's have a look at these questions, and while I'm doing that, I'll just get the game running again and see if the audio comes back up. We've asked about the base building. How is logic going to work compared to Stormworks? I think we've kind of covered that-ish. I mean, there is obviously a lot to this game. There's a lot of depth and there's a lot of authorship. It is more complicated than Stormworks. The qualifier, I'll just add with that, is to say that it also gives you much better tools than Stormworks. So while it's more complex, you've got much better vision into what's going on, why something is working or why something isn't working, and you get a lot more feedback. And I think a big concept that we're really pushing with this game is to not add mechanics that are a black box that you can't see inside of, and actually we're trying to just add mechanics that can be communicated visually and intuitively to players so that they can see what's going on. And I think that's a big lesson we learn from Stormworks. Sometimes the systems, it's difficult for players to break down what's going on under the hood in order to get their vehicle to work the way they are hoping. We're back in game here. I think I can hear the game audio coming through. Yes, of course I can. Let's load back into my my stream test. How much will it be, and will it work on Steam Deck? I've covered the price. Will it work on Steam Deck? So, important note on this game, it is DirectX 12. We are very fed up of the OpenGL problems we're having in Stormworks. OpenGL was absolutely the right decision when we launched the game. When we started developing the game, Vulkan didn't exist. I don't think it'd even be announced. OpenGL was the best option at the time. Everyone was making the game in OpenGL. The manufacturer support is just dropping, and every now and again one of the manufacturers breaks their drivers and we start getting bug reports, and then they fix the driver and the bug reports go away, and it's just annoying to have poor quality of support. Plus Apple have officially removed support for OpenGL and stuff, so OpenGL is certainly not a good choice for a new game. I don't think we just wanted to go for the best supported API, and that's why we've gone with DirectX 12. Does it work on Steam Deck? I don't know. We haven't tested it. I'm back in game. I think you should be able to see that. I will open my game back up, and Beginner can rejoin if he would like. Beginner, if you were talking, then sorry, I did have my game sound off, so I wouldn't have been able to hear you. But if you do say anything, then that will be on the stream, so everyone will be able to hear. Let's carry on through some more of these. How have you changed the movement and physics engine from Stormworks? So the physics engine is Jolt physics. I am a fan of Jolt Physics. I am enjoying it very much. I mean, Bullet does have some nice quirks, but I think overall Jolt Physics is the better physics engine. It does support multi-threading out of the box, which is very cool. So it should hopefully be a more scalable physics engine and also a faster, generally, physics engine. Um, the player capsule is a physics object. The vehicles, the buildings, I mean, everything is, set up in the physics environment. Some of these objects are dynamic physics objects, so I guess we call them props, but I mean, the items on the floor are dynamic physics. These barriers are dynamic physics. Um, it is very fast to recalculate the physics, so you will see there is vehicle damage in this game. You can crash your vehicle and stuff will break off. You can crash into buildings and stuff will break off. You can explode stuff and so on. And yeah, I mean, that's how that works. Yeah, I mean, obviously time will tell on that, but I think at this point I'm very pleased with the results we're having. It can be difficult to know, where the limitations, because of the limitations of all physics engines. How will the physics engine survive vehicles that go super fast? Is it going to be possible to do sound barrier in this game and stuff like that? Like, I just don't know at this point. And we need to carry on developing the game further to be able to really answer those questions as to how the physics engine will constrain the gameplay potentially. But it will be revealed with time. Will you be able to work on vehicles in the world? Is their workbench still going to be there? So I think I've kind of covered that. The vehicle editing system we've kind of given an overview of. This player says, why discriminate against larger builds? Some people like to work on longer projects. I mean, I don't think this is as much a discrimination as much as because I think the context for that, I think the argument there is, well, we're dealing with this game in the context of comparing it to Stormworks, and I think that is an important topic to cover. Yes, Stormworks is extremely relevant to what we're doing here and what we're talking about. We're streaming to the Stormworks community on the Stormworks store page, but at the same time, I think for this game to be a good game, for this game to be everything it can be, it needs to be free of the baggage of Stormworks. That's to say that if a feature is in Stormworks, it doesn't automatically need to be in this game. If there are maybe potential in Stormworks, that's not necessarily got to be the potential that we explore with this game. It can be its own thing, and I think having its own identity and being its own thing and being unique is going to free the game to do some really cool stuff. I think if that makes sense, it's kind of difficult to put that into words, but I think if we're just trying to fix everyone's expectations for Stormworks with this game, then I don't think this game would ever be a good game. I think it would just constantly be stuck in this trying to be something it can never be kind of limbo. But being its own game, I think it can be something really special. I think a lot of this stuff, I mean, another principle with this game is we're trying to do a more detailed and richer job of but less features. So we're trying to do less but to a higher quality. And I think that is also, a really good direction to take. And I think in principle it should be great, but there's obviously the downside there in that you're probably not going to have as broad reaching a game as Stormworks, where you can do all these different things and play the game in all these different ways. I think the game has a clearer scope, and some players might not appreciate that. Some players might think, well, I actually, after playing it, kind of like that it's got a narrower scope and it's clearer and it's doing a better job of less. But I think it's really up to us to take that approach and kind of set that direction and try and do something new. I think it's about saying it's kind of pointless to just try and make the same game again. We've already made Stormworks. Stormworks exists, and we've been very clear we're going to carry on making Stormworks. I think if there's stuff that we'll be good in Stormworks, we should do it in Stormworks. So that kind of answers that question. I just don't think I need to, I guess, deliver on the Stormworks expectations with this game, and I think that's a really good idea for me to kind of be clear in my head that this game is its own thing. And I think it's good for the players, and it's good for the playing experience. The next question: did you fix multiplayer? The stuff like 9999F ghost chunks, so we are aware of the ghost chunks issue. I believe we've got some pretty good reports on that. Thank you to the players who have reported that. I'm not going to get too far into talking about Stormworks, but to talk about the multiplayer in this game, we've been playing in multiplayer on a regular basis. We've been playing cross-continent. We've been playing testing with packet loss and so on. The game does play better with packet loss. You do need a broadband connection. I think if we have a look, so the server is currently using 24 kilobytes per second one direction and 34 in the other. I think that's with one client playing. So that's that's broadband connection, right? That's fairly simple stuff. Most players should be able to do that. But in terms of if you're receiving some packet loss, we've got some new algorithms here which do harden against packet loss, and we've tried to build the multiplayer up to be a more robust multiplayer solution. Obviously, it's possible if your internet connection is bad enough or it's not working, it is going to break. We're also constraining the experience a little bit more, so the game is online cooperative multiplayer. That is to say that it's not Minecraft servers where you just join and there's 100 people in there already. You're just playing with your friends. It's like 4 or 6 player cooperative experience. And that's the multiplayer experience. And yes, that's constrained, but that's also something that I think we can deliver a high quality experience with and a high quality product. So we're just being a little more clear about that. But yeah, the multiplayer works, and I think it works great. It's kind of a subjective answer because it does affected by obviously the quality of your internet connection. If you're on a normal connection, I think it's going to work well for you. And there's going to be an open alpha. There's going to be a closed alpha. Hopefully, we'll do like an open beta later on, and then we'll launch into early access. You will get a chance to play for free before the game releases, I expect. So you can judge for yourself. All will be revealed, and you can test it. But I think players are going to like the multiplayer. Will there be vehicle damage? The answer is yes. Let's go ahead and spawn some stuff. Now, where's my editor tool? I'll just pop that onto my hotbar. I'll go onto the paste mode. I can load my vehicles on this menu, and we'll just load in, I think it's Jeep 2 is the one. Load that in. And should we just smash it into something? I'll jump in the seat. So you do actually need to kind of get into the seat. You can't just look at a seat anymore, which will catch some people out. I've had to turn the handbrake off. I've turned my engine on, and I'm just going to throttle up, and then I'll just smash it into this wall here, and we'll see if that's fast enough. All right, we've done some damage there, I think. Let's have a look. So I've managed to break one component off. So, I mean, the vehicles don't necessarily smash into a million pieces. I think a bit has fallen off the vehicle there. I think that chunk is just deleted, I think. And yeah, you can see there's a bit messing from the bumper here. So there is damage, yes, and as you go faster, the damage is more severe and affects a larger area. The next question is, can you only build land vehicles? Can you create water vehicles as well? So we're looking at vehicles at the moment in terms of helicopters. We'll see where we get to. I mean, I'm not the best creator, and on day one there's going to be better creations where I can come, so please keep that in mind. I'll spawn my, I think this is it. It's going to spawn me inside it here. It's a bit annoying, but okay, it's kicked me out of it, so this doesn't get stuck inside the vehicle. It shouldn't have done that, but there are small bugs we will fix. This is something I was working on. It's obviously half cooked. I had a lot of fun making this. I'm just trying to lay it out, get stuff working, get stuff sized up, and so on. You can see I've got a bit of a jet engine up there. That's not something that we finished yet. I doubt that'll be in the alpha. But we got the seats up the front, and so on. I was kind of using this as an example platform, so hopefully I'll finish this off. And obviously I need a helicopter to be able to actually test the components and tune and balance them and so on. So that's as far as the helicopters have got, but I would like to continue with that, and we'll see what players' priorities are, and I think it's really important to get the player feedback before I commit to what the next feature that we would be wanting to add in is. It makes a lot of sense. We are 1 hour in. Maybe we should play some survival game. I've really not even scratched the surface on the vehicle building stuff yet. I might just paste some other bits in. I'll just carry on where we left off with, I think this is my engine. This is a working engine I developed a while ago. There is battery power. I'll just quickly show this. It's this is what my engines ended up looking like. There's quite a lot of parts to this. I'll just quickly discuss. This is probably like the most complicated side of the game. You could make this in a lot more complex a way if you wanted, but I'll just kind of describe the component parts to this modular engine. And again, I am kind of touching on the more advanced parts of the game. You can make electric vehicles. They're a lot simpler. This starter vehicle is an electric vehicle. Most of these parts you can't even find in this area. You've got to start traveling deeper into the world in order to find the fuel engine parts. It's not a beginner feature. So with that qualifier, I'll just talk about how complex the game can get. You saw me add the engine block earlier. We've got the gearbox here, which converts the engine power into a torque connector. That is this connector here. That is controlled. I think we don't actually have gear controller on this, but you can change the gears using a mechanical input on the gear to shift up and shift down. If we go around this side, we've got a radiator. This is one of those stretchable parts. It can be stretched in 2 dimensions, this one. We've put a liquid fill port, and again, this is how the accessorizing works. So we've got something that can contain fluid. You can just place a liquid port, and you can place the liquid fill port anywhere. So that could be anywhere along the top, it could be down the side. You can just place it where you want to place it. And you can interact with the liquid fill port with water containers, for example. If I just spawn one in and just show that, water container give, and you can see I've got my water container out. It's doing the debug rendering for the liquids. We can see, I think the color grading is the pressure. So I can left and right click on my liquid fill port to add and remove water. If I right click, you see the liquid draining out, and again you can see the levels changing in the game. You can see that there's a pressure equalizing / water level that equalizes between components. The water system, or the liquid system I should say, works differently to Storm works. It's I think more robust and just easier to use. In this case, you can see I've just emptied some of my stuff out. I mean, that stuff's been lost because my water container was already full. If I get my edit tool and I just remove the stuff, you can see we've got some loose parts just got released there. There's the ports, so I should have said that before we continued, but there's a lot of these liquid parts, like for example we've got a liquid tank here. To connect to it, you just place a port down. So there's a bunch of ports here, and when you place a port against the container, it creates a connection point at that location. So again, the liquid tank is a three-dimensional stretchable item, so you can set its depth, height and width to whatever you want it to be. You can place the connection ports wherever you want them to go. You can add as many as you want. Obviously comparing this to Stormworks, where you've just got the fixed sized containers, the fixed positions for the ports to go. It's very flexible, very powerful, very customizable parts at the component level. Obviously it's a bit more involved, and rather than place down one tank, you've got to place down the tank and the ports, so it is a bit more involved. But you can also see how, if you're into that, if you want that control, extremely powerful system. So you can see I've got my belt system here. I've got some tensioner pulleys. I think this is my starter motor. My engine wheel, I think that's the alternator. No, that's the alternator there. This is a pump, and this is another pump. I think that's a water pump. This is the oil pump. And again, that's probably easier to, if I pick up my water container again, water container please, then you can see that the, I mean, you can't see because you can't see the actual parts here, but there is a flow through the, is this the pump? This is the pump here. You can see the flow goes into the pump, out into this container, through a port. This is the oil because it's going through the oil filter, and again you can take the oil filter part off to change it. It does clean the oil. There is like a oil life system, so you do need to change your oil every now and again, and consider changing your filter as well, because it extends the life of your oil a lot. It's not something you're going to have to be constantly doing, but it is just, there are some maintenance aspects to the game. We've got the exhaust system up here. These are exhaust manifolds similar to Stormworks. We've got the liquid fill port for the oil there. We go around to the other side. I think this is the fuel manifold, and then no, sorry, that is the air manifold. The fuel manifold is this one here. And we've got the battery. The battery is demountable, so we can take that out. This is kind of a battery holder, and if I get a little bit closer, the parts are kind of underneath, but you can see there's, let me just grab the electric tool so I can show you this bit. Yeah, so again, like, it's complicated, but when you get the correct tool out, it becomes easier to understand. There's a lot less going on, and you get the debug rendering. So we can see here the battery. I think the color is the amount of charge that you've got. We've got some connectors on the bottom of the battery here, the electric ports, and they've been cabled in. And I don't know whether there's any cables I can link here because they're quite short. But the way the cable system works, I'll just show you. So what I'll do is I'll start making a cable here, and I'll just kind of do a bit of this. I'll route it around a bit, and I can kind of do whatever I want there. When I complete it, you can see it creates the loop there. If I go to a different tool, you can see it actually renders the cable. So you've kind of got your logic links that are physically present. Now, they don't stop you from placing components, so they don't interfere with placing stuff. They don't get in the way per se, but they are visualized, so you are getting this kind of literal communication of what's going on. It does mean that complicated builds look complicated, but it also kind of, you know, visually communicates what you're doing. And this is a similar system. If I go back to my electric tool, now my inventory's full here at the bottom, so I actually can't pick up more stuff, but I can just kind of swap them into my hand. I can make edits to this, so I can start moving these points around, and you can see you can kind of do whatever you want and whatever 3D shape and weird shapes and routes that you want. And yeah, you know, that's that system. It is in depth, it is complicated, but it also just powerful vehicle editor that I think is the next stage up from Stormworks. I think we should play some survival game because we should be getting on with it. Now, I did enable multiplayer. I don't know whether we're here on our own or not, but what I'll do is I will paste in my Jeep and we'll give this a go. So oh man, there's just so much to cover here. So we do have, like, you know, the boxes that you can stick items in. We've got a similar concept to that in this game. You can see here I can pick up these boxes. These are inventory boxes. I can then just like place them back down. The angle I'm looking at is the orientation of the item, and I just I think, what do I do? Is it, yeah, it's just F. But then they're also inventory containers, so I can go in and I can see the stuff in. I've obviously changed the size of something here because they're crossing over. They shouldn't be able to do that, but I should be able to hopefully drag that into my inventory. I've now got a gun. I'll put a couple of magazines in my shorts. The inventory system's quite involved. You see I've got my magazine in my semi-automatic pistol. It's there. I can roll onto it, and it's in my person. I can ADS, and I can shoot. Oh, there's a lot of cool stuff here. I think before we roll off, I will show you some other first-person items. It is a survival game. We've only just touched the building side of things. There's a lot of the character control and the first-person stuff which I've not shown yet. I'm just looking for, yeah, test bed guns. Let's do this one. Another developer made this little setup. So I've put some handles on it, so I can just open the handles here, and yeah, we've got our gun locker. They built this up, so let's tap that. I've now put that on. You can see I've got my my plate carrier that I've worn. Now, these items here that I've got on it, they are first-person items. Some of these don't work. I think the microphone is just not implemented yet. I'll drop that. The headset part is also not implemented. The radio is, so that will work. The units in this game, you can see I've got my milliwatt hours here. We're trying to do more real-world units. Now, obviously, the real-world parts, the numbers associated with them, for example, the wattage of one part can be dramatically different to the wattage of another part. I know that you can get like electric motors, for example, that are very large. Like 20 years ago, your electric motor would be very large and it would produce like several kilowatts, and now of course you can get these tiny little drone motors that are like a kilowatt. So you know, that there is going to be some wiggle room in terms of just how realistic the parts are compared to any specific real world part. I did just hear some footsteps, did I? Ah, yes. Okay. Beginners here, so it looks like we're going to play some survival gameplay. But yeah, so you will see more real world numbers in the game. Now I'm just going to drop a couple more of these, and what I'm going to do actually is I'll just grab one of these, and yeah, it's placed it there on my vest. You can see it actually appears on my person. And what I'll do is I'll drop this gun, and I'll move this one onto my hotbar. And then if I select that hotbar item, he does actually grab it from his person. If we put the radio in the next slot, he does a bit of that. He does kind of clip through. I mean, he can kind of grab on any part of your person, but there's just a certain kind of literalism that we're trying to keep with these parts. I think this should be a loaded gun, so that'll probably kind of do me for now. But yeah, there's loads of parts. There's a lot of guns that we've looked at added. There's I mean, this isn't all of them. There's crazy amount. You do have to play the game for. You have to play career for quite a while to get all these unlocks. Some of them are very rare. Not all of these will be in the open alpha. In fact, you'll have to travel quite far and deep into the world and play the survival game in order to be able to find and unlock all of this stuff. So there is a strong sense of progression to the game. In that sense, I mean, beginner, what should we do? Should we just kind of jump into the Jeep and head towards the farm, I guess, do a little bit of looting? Yeah, I guess we shall. I think I've got everything. I think these are the right magazines for the gun. Should keep me going for a little bit. I've got an extra 50 rounds as well. I've got my torch. Now, better drag that onto my hotbar. It's got a little icon here. It's got no battery in it. I gotta go and I gotta put my battery in my gun torch there. Apparently I'm looking. This is the stuff I'm looking at. My actual torch is this one here, so it needs to go there. So yeah, when you look at stuff, you can see here this gun has a bunch of attachments. I'm looking at, I mean, we've called it the A3. It's obviously the British Army L80 something rifle. I'm sure someone will correct me in chat. And there's a bunch of different slots you can put your stuff in. In this case, there is a silencer slot, a torch slot, laser sight. I think these can kind of be moved slots, so they can kind of move around. I think the foregrip can only go in the foregrip slot. There's the top rail for sights, and there's obviously the magazine slot for putting the magazine into. So, and a lot of these first-person items are accessorized. You can see a bunch of different accessorized versions there. Let's jump in the vehicle and head off then, I guess. Am I driving very brave? Well, we'll see how I get on. All right. Handbrake is off. We'll drive out into the world. So obviously we've not really seen very much. As you can see, you can use the first person items from at least a passenger seat in the driver's seat. I'm obviously on the steering wheel here. The driver's seat is actually, can I make it around there? I can. Is actually a modular piece. So it's the same seat, but you just add the steering wheel onto the front, and there's a bunch of different ones. There's like a pilot, kind of like a throttle stick, and we can obviously add more as we so wish. So that's quite nice, and there's a lot of more modularity in the parts here. You can also see there is actually a window to the front of this car. It kind of looks like it's just the frame, but I'll show that when we get out. Is there, or is the window missing? I think the window might have smashed off, I can't see it in there. Right, we're now leaving the safe zone. So we've left the blue zone and we're now out into the game world. So this is potentially, the consequence of the game has now started. What I might just do is just I'll just slow the car down, and I'll just go into my audio settings and maybe just turn the sounds down a little bit, just so you can hear me a little bit better. Obviously I'll lose some of the magic of the game, because I think the audio is working quite nicely in this game. We've got a zombie horde in front. It's all the same zombie. We've just got the one mesh at the moment. Like, zombies are quite a recent addition potentially. But yeah, you can shoot from the seat. We don't need to kill them all. We'll just kind of carry on. But obviously, if you're caught unaware, or you're out of your vehicle, or there's a problem with your vehicle, then that would be a massive problem. But that's the magic of having vehicles in this game, right? They've become very, very powerful. So I'm just kind of following the roads. The roads are nice and smooth. We've got a special roads tool in this game. These buildings are lootable, and loot does spawn in the buildings. In fact, shall we jump into this building, just show the loot quickly? I'll take this out of gear and handbrake on. We'll leave the engine running and we'll shoot some zombies, I guess. Oh, someone's telling me there's no game audio on my stream. You know what? That's probably easily fixed. Oh Christ, I'm going to get killed here. Now there is medical items. I think we've kind of left without any. Let's just see if I can very quickly. Okay, you should hopefully have the game audio now. Right, I'll just reload that. It does drop my magazine. My magazine's now been dropped on the floor, so I can't do that too much. Jesus, there's a lot of them here. I don't know if Dimitri's actually there, because he doesn't seem to be reacting to these guys, but we'll... if you do disconnect from a game... Right, you can see my gun is out, but I will put new magazine in. There we go. Okay, please excuse the amount of... Oh Christ, there's more of them. You know what, I'll just quickly show you some loot, and we'll get out of here. We can go in. Buildings have interiors. It's quite nice. You can build these buildings. These are components, so you'd be able to build your own kind of like building just like this, or bigger, and it's just the same parts. The parts for buildings you do find around in the world. We can go into rooms, and there's you know, doors and stuff. These windows, they're the stretchable parts we talked about before. Oh my god. Okay, please ignore the massive pile of zombies that are kind of going absolutely mad on each other. I'm just going to try and jump in and get out of here, but I might get killed here. Oh Christ. Okay, I have died. I'm going to have to load a game. I don't know whether the loading is particularly tested. This is obviously pre-alpha. The game could crash at any moment. In testing, it's generally been pretty good, and we've kept it fairly stable. So hopefully we won't have any problems. But you know, it's the risk of doing a live demo. I'm not doing very well on the questions here. Let's answer some more questions. Can you only build land vehicles? I think I answered that. How is the vehicle creation compared to Stormworks? I think I've covered that. It's there's more going on, but it's potentially easier in this respect that you can get better insight into what's working and not working. Is combat optional like in Stormworks? I mean, in a sense it is. You can just do the vehicle editing. I expect we'll do kind of like a safe mode where the enemies don't spawn, but you know, we'll look for player feedback on that. I think probably the combat won't be optional if you want to unlock stuff. I think to find new components and unlock parts, I think you've probably got to play the career mode to get that progression. I think it being a survival game is an important part of its identity. So yeah, you see we've loaded back in. I don't think Dimitri's back yet. I just got to make sure... Right, my multiplayer flag does reset when I load a game, so I just got to re-enable multiplayer there. Alright, and let's get out of here before we get killed. You can see my health bar at the top. I just took an absolute beating. And we'll just do a bit of exploring. I don't know how smooth it's going to be with Dimitri loading back in game, but we'll see if it works. There's a bear there that's going to start chasing us. We probably just want to get out of here. There is rather a lot of these undead. We'll head up into the mountains. Now I'm going to do something very reckless. I'm going to try and answer questions while driving. We'll see how well this works. If you crash the vehicle, you know, it does get damaged. So we just got to be a little bit careful there. Parts will break off. Did you take your inspiration from Unturned when choosing the style of the game? I think we've taken inspiration from quite a lot of places. I mean, I have played Unturned. I think, is that the main reference for this game? Probably not. I mean, I think there are a lot of zombie games around at the moment. you know, Daisy wasn't like on the forefront of our mind, and in fact we added zombies in quite late, and it was nothing like Daisy. And then we added zombies, and we're like, oh my god, it's a little bit like that. But obviously it's not Daisy because it's not a massive multiplayer game. You know, you're not going to have 100 players in this game. It's going to be you and your friends playing cooperatively to survive the undead and the other enemies in the game, which I won't get too far into at this point. We've got, I mean, Stalker, I think, is a great point of reference for this game, right? Like, obviously, the setting is very different, but I think the kind of, I guess, the goal for the game is not too dissimilar, and we kind of got that survival and that kind of mechanic of going out into the world and doing the looting and having the inventory management and stuff. I think there's a reference point there. I'll go for my next question. The trailer showed block-based coding similar to Scratch. Will Lua still be an option? So the typing will be an option, but it's our language. It's, I think, simple to read and write in text form. But yeah, there is the drag and drop mode as well. And of course, I think the programming is just optional, full stop. This vehicle doesn't have any programmed parts in. It's all just using the mechanical components. And you can do stuff just mechanically as well. You don't have to use logic, although obviously there's a reason to, right? There's a lot of computer control. There is wildlife to the game. You can see he's scared of me, but he is a bighorn sheep, I believe. He's scarpered. Oh my god, the big drop here. If I drive off the edge, answering your question, my apologies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh the questions list, and I'm just going to shuffle because we need to give players who have joined later a chance. Shuffle. Is the website having a bad time? You know what? I'm going to give the website a minute to fix itself first, but I don't know whether we've been attacked or what. The questions website isn't seem to be working for me right this second. We'll see if it's going to come back. I don't really want to start trying to restart it in the stream because it's just going to be a bit of a distraction. My apologies if you're struggling to ask questions or you haven't had your question answered yet. I'm very sorry about that. We are an hour 22 into the stream now, so I am a little bit mindful of time. We can't kind of go on forever. See in the chat someone says drive off the edge. I will try not to do that. This vehicle does have lights on it. It's currently daytime. There is, of course, a day-night cycle. I haven't gone too much into this. You'll see these parts here. They are angled on an angled surface, so this is something I haven't shown here, but the you can put components on the angled surfaces, so you don't have to have all the magic pivots and stuff that you've been doing with Stormworks. Again, we're kind of, you know, making the building system more powerful in that respect, so yeah, you can have your components on a different axis, and obviously that's really good for these panels. It also makes your vehicles more efficient because you don't have all these dynamic physics parts all over your vehicle that are like kind of wobbling and colliding with each other and causing, you know, physics calculations and so on. So it also makes it more efficient. Whoops, sorry, just be careful getting back onto the road here. I lost concentration there for a moment. And yeah, there is a day-night cycle, so currently it's daytime. It's overcast weather. You can see there's a bit of a shadow, so it's not completely overcast. I can't quite see where the sun is. But yeah, it will come to nighttime. The weather is also dynamic. You can see here it's raining. If we go into the inventory menu, you can see that my temperature, that's cold and that's hot, and there is a little white line. It's a little bit difficult to see, that's just there. There's also my wetness factor. I don't think this is really balanced yet because it does say I'm like not wet at all, but obviously it is raining. I should be a little bit wet there. I have just let the engine stall there and I'm rolling backwards. Let's just get the engine started again. And there are special locations in the game as well. I possibly won't start taking us underground. I haven't even been underground, but there are underground locations in the game. I did re-enable multiplayer, didn't I? Yeah, I don't know why. Don't know whether beginner's here or not. Yeah, we'll go up this hill. Well, maybe we won't, but there is ruins and location up there. I'm not going to start trying to show that because it's a big part of the game. I think I might leave players to discover that later on as we launch the open beta, or the open or the closed alpha, I should say. You can see here the world view is quite far. It is a little bit foggy in the distance. You kind of get this blurring effect with the far distance fog. In clearer weather, you can see even further than this. I think the max view distance is about 60 kilometers, so it's quite far, and the world is potentially going to be quite big. This initial island, I think, is about 5 kilometers across, but this is like the small island on the corner that is kind of your tutorial area in a sense. You're getting started in the game area, and we've just started working on the next larger area. I don't know how big the game will be when it's finished, but yeah, I don't want to start throwing numbers out, but I think it'll be, you know, reasonably big. I think there'll be many hours of survival gameplay to be had, and it'll take you a very long time to explore the entire world and discover all the places you can go. The world is also semi-procedural, so where we're placing the roads down and stuff, we're doing that manually. But you can see the trees are procedurally placed when you start a new game. Where the forests are is procedural, it randomly generates. The biomes as well, like the different colours on the floor and the different side, the grass does vary from location to location, and that's also procedural. The buildings are also semi-procedural. Where the buildings spawn, that is fixed, but which buildings spawn and potentially if a building spawns at a location is procedural. So you get different different worlds. There is a world seed, so the worlds are semi-random, and that just allows us to have some I guess design control over the world while also having some freedom over the replayability, I suppose, the replayability experience. So yeah, the roads are a lot kind of like smoother in this game, and they're placed using a special road tool, so they're kind of these like smooth curves, and you get a bunch of junctions. There are different types of roads, not so much on this island, but we're looking at I think you'll if you go through the trailer, you'll see some 2-lane highway, and so on. So there's a variety of different stuff there. I don't know whether the website is going to come back. I imagine I might have to restart it. I don't know whether we've been DDoSed or whatever. Oh, hang on. Is it back? I've just clicked back, and I can see a few more questions, so I'll just see if I've answered all of these. I think I have already answered all of these. You can see here we haven't seen oh, I shouldn't have spoken too soon. Just zombie came out of nowhere. We'll go and we'll see if we can explore some buildings and just check out a bit of loot. So yeah, the weather will change a lot. There's fog and mist that is of varying amounts. There's the rain. There is a temperature simulation as well. I mean, it is a weather simulation, and the weather will change, and you're unlikely to see the same weather twice. There's also this kind of global weather system. I'm not going to start trying to demo it here, but you can see weather in the distance. So you can see it's very foggy over there. If you go over there, it's actually foggy. If we turn around and look in a different direction, I think we can't really see along the horizon as far. You can see there's a thunderstorm over there. I think you just saw some thunder and lightning, and you will see kind of darker sky and thunder, and that is real weather in the game. If you went to that location, that's what the weather would be like. So there's this kind of localized weather, I suppose. I don't know whether other games have done that. I'm not sure, but it's quite a useful feature for us. I'll pull up here. I'll drop it out of gear. Oh Christ! I'll try not to because I am going to run out of ammo at some point. Okay, I've managed to kill both of those guys. They're very interested in... I am going to get killed here. So I can grab my magazine and load it here. So I've moved my magazine into my hand. I'm going to have to get my... Oh no. And I'm dead. Yeah. That is the survival loop. Survival is still to be balanced, but you know there is going to be a consequence to the game, and there is going to be a survival game. We are working on the zombies at the moment, so I expect they will improve with time, and yeah, hopefully players' experience will get better with time. I think I am just having a little think on... Let's just get the game loading again. So, what did I do? Yeah, let's just load this one, and I guess we'll have to go to somewhere else, won't we? Right. Yeah, it does look like we've got a bunch of IP addresses coming in on the website. It looks like we've had a DDoS attack there. Someone is obviously a big fan, wanted to be involved in the stream, and that's the way they've decided to do it. Loading does take a little bit. I think it's about a minute, I think. Yeah, I've just done a lot of talking. I will just take a break for a moment while I just see if the website is going to come back up, because if I can... Right, we're back in game. So yeah, I don't know whether I try and do that again. I should probably just like set up my kit a little bit better first, so I can obviously change my inventory. So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting my pistol magazine just onto my hotbar, and I'll just drop... I'm not actually dropping these items, I'm just removing them from my hotbar. I'll put him over there, put him there, and that just means I can cycle. I can't cycle at the moment because I'm in a driver's seat, but if I wasn't in a driver's seat I'd be able to... Did we get past him? I think we did. I would be able to cycle onto that, and then you reload your magazines like that in first person. So there's a lot of literalism. The game does expect you to do quite a lot of things, you know, it's quite kind of hardcore in that sense. But I think that's, I guess, a concept for this game, is it's about having a lot of layers of detail and a lot of layers of systems and logic, and being more in depth than other games. And you can kind of see where we're coming from if you're a Stormworks player. I think, you know, it's part of what makes Stormworks what it is. But it is different, and that is a difference to other games. You know, I think straight away, like even just like putting your battery in your torch, I'm not sure there's other games that make you put a battery in your torch. You know, the battery will run out. You've got to find batteries in the world and so on. Let's just park up here. We'll see how I get on. I don't know whether there's just going to be too many zombies here or not. But at least I can whip my magazine out. Right, that's a full magazine. So we'll see if we can do any looting. We are looking at stealth mechanics and so on. So the enemy vision will hopefully depend on... Well, I think it does at the moment. It depends on how illuminated you are. So if it's day or night time, if there's a torch on you, if you're holding a torch and so on. These are all things that would make you more or less visible. But I think their vision is actually very good at the moment. So sometimes you encounter them and they are inactive. This is like a sleeping undead, if you like. I can hear one, I'm getting scared. But yes, you can sneak around, but if you get too close, you might wake them up. And yeah, if I shoot here, he's probably going to wake up, isn't he? I'm not sure if they react to gunshots yet. No, they don't. Well, that's a bit of luck, but that's probably going to change, isn't it? We'll probably... Oh, no. Christ. Okay. Okay, I had to do some fast thinking. I'm not the best FPS player, but I did just make it through that a bit of combat. I mean, there's a huge amount of stuff. You can loot inside boxes as well. This is the column which shows up for the items you're currently looking at. This is the stuff that's on your person, and then this is stuff inside stuff that's on your person. So you can see we've got all our pouches here that can hold items. And so on, and then this is the box we're currently hovering. You can see there's a dial, so that's just a vehicle path, that's a dial. But a beanie, we can throw that on our head, and we're now wearing a hat. And of course you can go in these rooms, and the interiors are very detailed, but of course all these are game components as well. So these are, well, that's a shirt on a chair, but these chairs, desk, you know, you can remove them all. I think we can loot inside a desk. There's nothing in that one. My god, the stuff. I found a pair of shorts inside a printer and a pair of gloves as well. Yeah, that's kind of the basis of the survival game. It's definitely better with friends, and obviously you can play your campaign, and you can build buildings, you can build your base with all the same tools as the vehicles, so you've still got that same level of detail, that same level of logic. If you want a base with electric, you might want to build generators and stuff, so you might want to start doing mechanical parts. And of course, if you don't want to build stuff, there will be a workshop, and you can... Right, so you're going to stand somewhere where I can get him. Oh. So, was I bleeding? I didn't check, but you can take wounds, and you do bleed. There is a medical system. If I was bleeding, I should have noticed, and I should have used a bandage. Bandage does stop bleeding in that sense. And so on. I think, what might I do here? I feel like I've kind of shown the game there. What we might just do is just jump back to our save from earlier. Just show a little bit more building stuff, and then we'll probably finish the stream. Right, my questions website is working again. So I can answer some more questions. I would like to try and answer as many players' questions as possible. So let's just go through a rapid questions answering phase. No point submitting new questions. I've got 4 pages. There's no way I'm going to get through a fraction of that. So please don't submit more questions. I've just shuffled though. So from a random place in the queue, let's go through. Will there be vehicle damage? We've covered. What kind of vehicle damage system will there be in game? I mean, we might continue to develop it, but I did show the vehicle impacting earlier. Stuff breaks off. There is also functional damage, 2 parts. They don't necessarily fall off immediately, but they can take a bit of damage without necessarily getting snapped off, in which case they would potentially stop functioning or function with a malfunction, similar to Stormworks, I suppose, where there's various levels. If you damage your light, it's not necessarily going to break off, but it might stop working, for example. There is a repair tool, so you can repair damage and so on. The gameplay loop of the game, I would say, is this is a question. I would say you're looting for stuff in order to build things, in order to survive combat better. So you're building, looting, fighting, and I guess fighting / survival. So surviving in terms of, you know, eating, drinking, using medical, and so on. So there's the kind of the general survival part, and I think the basis of the game is it's about creating this building game which is super in depth, and then giving you a reason to build, giving you a problem to solve. And in this case, it's this kind of open world survival context with this development. There's places to go, there's stuff to do, there's challenges to solve, and the vehicle building is about potentially enhancing your ability to survive in the world, or potentially thrive in the world, because your vehicles could be really cool. But then, hopefully as time goes on, we'll develop the top end of that. So, the better the vehicle building you can do, the tougher the challenges we can throw at you, and I guess set down the gauntlet for your vehicle creation, so you can, start in the creative zone, spawn your awesome helicopter, jump in it with your friends, go to some difficult combat area, do your raid, I suppose, your dungeon if you like, loot the high level loot stuff that you're trying to get. People can get their permanent progression by unlocking new stuff, and then you can potentially return to base and carry on playing. I suppose that will be the loop. You're then enhancing your buildings with the loot, or you're enhancing your survival with the loot, and obviously you need the loot in order to survive, in order to kill the enemies, in order to go to these dangerous locations. What are the engine types that are available? Steam, diesel, gas, nuclear. So I will cover what we're developed already. You can see here we've got our petrol/diesel engine. I don't know whether we will make a distinction between diesel and petrol, because mechanically speaking I don't know if that adds anything to the game, but certainly you've got this style of combustion engine. We're also currently developing a jet engine, which again is just going to be higher torque ratio, but more complicated, higher tier, difficult to unlock, and so on. We don't have plans for steam, gas, or nuclear right now. I suppose gas is in petrol. I suppose we've got that, but in terms of the other, we don't have plans for those right now. We'll be looking for player feedback. Just with the caveat, I don't think it's going to be as wide-ranging a game as Stormworks. I think we just need to be clearer in our head about what the scope of the game is, in order that we can do less but to a higher quality, and ultimately have a game that feels a lot more like a finished product. Is there boat? We want boat. No boat, no buy. Well, right now there's no boat, and I would say, if that's a deal breaker, then that's absolutely fine. You don't have to buy the game, and I think that yes, we're trying to build a game for as many players as possible, but not really. It's kind of a niche game, actually. Is this meant to be a game for everyone? Absolutely not. You can see here we've really gone hard on the depth and the detail, and building a creation is an involved process. There's a lot of detail, but there's also a lot of authorship and a lot of power to that. Does that mean the game is the right building game for you? Possibly not. I think it is going to be a niche game. So I think here we're building some people's favorite game of all time, and then we're also building a game that a lot of people, perhaps most people, are just going to have no interest in. So there's a mix of that. Perhaps we'll add boats at some point, in which case this player will be interested, but I think we're going to take it one stage at a time and make sure that we're doing a really strong job of each area before we necessarily start moving on. We don't want to leave the small vehicles half done or whatever. We kind of want to do a solid job of one part of the game before we necessarily start expanding it. How detailed or good will the sound effects be? I'm really pleased with the sound effects we've got. We've got a lot of sound effects in game. Sound effects are hard. I will be straight. Like some stuff we've just got amazing effects for. Other stuff is so hard to find the sound effects. We're using Splice for a lot of our sound effects. If you're familiar with the service, it's just an incredible website. They've got a massive library, and some stuff they don't have. So some stuff is harder, some stuff is easier, but we're trying to be more detailed. There's a lot of cool sounds, and there's a lot of small sounds that you wouldn't have had in Stormworks, because it doesn't go into that as much detail. And then in this game, we're kind of describing interactions and mechanics a lot more with sound, so we're really enjoying that. And of course the first person items are also a lot more detailed, so the sound effects to go with that. The environment has a lot of sounds to it. The vehicles, I'll just show you. Paste engine S4, paste that in. Will it start? So here we can hear the sound effect. What other sound effects do I have on this? We can change it to this one. That's kind of like a more kind of throaty engine. And that one's even further. And you can see for different vehicle types. And we've only done 3 there, right? The engine sounds I think work a little nicer. They're a little more dynamic than the Stormworks sounds. You can kind of hear the throttle kind of drop out as it stops burning the fuel. So there's a bit of that in there. I'll just turn that engine off to clear the sound. And we've only done 3 sounds, so it's quite easy for us, I suppose, to add new sounds into there. And I think the quite nice thing about this game is we're feeling with the development process in some ways it's a lot easier because the game's set up in such a way that we're more aware that we are going to be, adding components is going to be a constant and repetitive development exercise that we're going to go through. So we've made it easier for ourselves, and but then the parts are potentially a bit more involved in terms of a little richer with the sound effects and so on that we're doing. So yeah, that's that stuff. I've lost my place in the questions. Here we go. What improvements have been made to the optimization, especially for vehicle physics? I mean, it's to be stress tested, to be honest. Like, you can see the scale of the vehicles we've been making. You saw that helicopter's probably the biggest thing I've made. I'm not seeing any performance problems with that, so hopefully it's going to scale well. But the game's not intended for huge vehicles, so I can't say at this point if it's going to work by this game. So that's not a feature right now. I don't know whether it will ever be. I'm just being transparent and honest there. Hopefully it'll turn out that the game just scales incredibly well, but I don't really want to give any indication of that because I honestly don't know. Let's carry on with the questions. Can you only build land vehicles, or can you create water vehicles as well? I think I've covered that. Will there be normal updates for Stormworks? So I suppose expect an update every month that adds 1 to 3 components is the question. I suppose with this game, I think it would potentially work better if we did less frequent but bigger updates, where there's still plenty of development activity and there's still plenty of content going in, but maybe we don't add features constantly. Maybe we build an update every 3 months, but it's 3 months worth of updates. It's as in, so we have bigger updates at a less frequent interval, but then still have regular updates that are related to quality of life and fixes. But then new features are introduced in bundles. I think that's potentially better for players and a better player experience than potentially trying to keep up with what's been added in this month or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of to the subject of talking to the community about what's best for them. But it's very unusual for games to do the Stormworks style update schedule of every single month we're trying to do a release. I think less frequent releases that are bigger may be a better idea and may give a better player experience. But yeah, it's up for discussion with the community, and there's no fixed decision there. That's just the stuff that's in my head. Will there be features similar to local host processing or other ways to connect to web? I'm not really sure. I think if you mean will there be like local multiplayer, no, you will need to be online on Steam in order to be able to play multiplayer. and because it uses the Steam multiplayer service in order to work. So yes, you will need to be online on Steam Friends to use the multiplayer features. Will there be any boats, ocean-going vehicles? It's covered. How will vehicle and building damage work? I've kind of covered that. I think it is this physics impact basis. There is also weapons. I'm just thinking. I mean, I can spawn a grenade, I guess. Will this work? I think is it. Alright, let's get back. You can see I've cut a chunk off there. It did kind of land in the floor. I'm not sure if that's if there's a better throwing distance. Let's just throw it in the corner. We might get a bit more. Uh-oh. Yeah, so you can see there's damage being applied from weapons and stuff as well, and I guess you could put explosives on walls and blow holes in them and so on, and if you hit a wall fast enough you can break a big hole in it and so on. Will there be a blueprint system to build creative mode vehicles in survival mode more easily? So there is currently the copy paste feature, which is this duplicate tool. And of course I can go into copy mode, and to copy a vehicle I just simply hover it, and if I left click, that's it. Now that's on my clipboard, and I can now save my clipboard here, and that's currently how that works. Will there be like a copy paste for like subgroups, so we could like paste a subgroup in? I mean, we're not working on a feature like that at the moment. Yeah, I guess it sounds like it might be a good idea. I don't know. We don't have plans for that right now. We'll see what the feedback is and how players are ultimately playing the game. I suppose one of the concepts of the building here, and we don't want to make life difficult, but at the same time, like a big part of making stuff in real life is work holding. It's work manipulation and positioning parts. I know that like if you're a mechanic, for example, you'll have a vehicle ramp, or you'll have a jack, or you'll have a like a crane, like an engine crane for lifting an engine out of a vehicle and stuff. And I think all of these apply to this game where you're editing in first person. You might want to get under a vehicle and so on, and that's kind of difficult to do. So in real life, of course, they lift the vehicle up. I kind of like that as an aspect of the game design. Like you kind of think not just about how the vehicle functions, but how it's built and how it's maintained. And that's a really interesting design constraint, which really starts getting you thinking in like a real world designer, which I think is a very powerful thing for players. We'll see if it's fun, but at the moment that's how that works. I mean, I find it fun, but obviously, I design for a living, I suppose. Will there be a blueprint system to build? Sorry, I've already answered that one, haven't I? Will the logic and microcontrollers be similar? So I guess there's different types of logic. There's like mechanical logic, which is the mechanical signals, and then there's obviously the microcontroller logic, which is kind of similar to Stormworks, but it's the visual drag and drop stuff. Can we go to space? Definitely not. I think we can rule that out as ever being a feature, and I think this is a more constrained game in this sense that we're setting the scope a little more clearly. That yes, the game might creep out. There might be trains someday. There might be marine someday, but it's not going to stop being, this survival game. You're not going to go and fight the zombies on the moon. I think it's this kind of world setup. What are the future plans for Stormworks, and will there ever be a sequel? So we do have future plans for Stormworks. We are working on updates. I think let's just leave it at this game for this stream. We are running out of time. We're at 2 hours now, so I'll probably end the stream in the next 5 minutes. But we do have plans. We do have new updates coming out. We've got some really good updates coming out the next couple of months, actually. I think they're going to be very popular. you'll see them when you see them. Will there ever be a sequel? I mean, very possibly. I do have some ideas for some of the things I think would be really cool for a Stormworks 2. But I think, one thing at a time, right? Like, no one's even writing a line of code. It's just a few thoughts in my head. And we're doing this game right now. We're doing Stormworks right now. We're doing Carrier Command still. That's more than enough. And I think we'll just focus on doing a good job of those games before we start moving on to other stuff. I'll answer 3 or 4 more questions, and then I think we'll end the stream. I'll do my thanks and so on. Will there be dedicated servers? Probably not on launch. It is set up for dedicated servers to work, but it's meant to be a cooperative game that you jump in and play with your friends, like Left 4 Dead with vehicle building. Like it's that kind of experience. Or I guess maybe not Left 4 Dead, maybe something, because there's obviously persistence, and your game session isn't going to be an hour or half an hour. It's going to be, potentially days on end, and you have a massive career in the game, and you're building stuff and building bases in different places and so on, and running around the open world, and that's fine. But it's not meant to be a, hey, I'll drop into this server and start meeting random people in the places in the world. You're meant to be playing this cooperative 4 to 6 player kind of scale of game. Boats we've covered. I think there's this question about huge builds. I think I've kind of covered that already. I don't really want to start answering the same question multiple times. I've already answered that multiplayer one. Are there going to be cannons, auto cannons? Oh, go on. I'll just spawn something quickly. I mean, I'm just so excited about this game. I'm sure you can tell. I don't know what's going to come up when I type in cannon. No. I don't know what to type in. No. Yeah, sorry, I can't type it in. Yeah, we got some cannons. They're really cool. I don't know whether, I mean, they're high tier item. They're not going to be initially available in the open alpha, but we've got them in the working. They're very cool. Been looking at a bunch of stuff. It's quite good. Will it be? And I think the weapons, vehicle weapons, are going to be in the game, and I think they'll work in a similar way to Stormworks, right? I think that the weapons in Stormworks have worked quite well. You've got the ammo handling there. You've got the operation. You've got the modularity in terms of opening the breech, feeding the ammo, and so on. So I think we'd like to keep with that kind of system. I think it works quite well. How much game modes do you plan to make? Which one there will be exactly? So there's career mode and there's creative mode right now. I don't know whether we'll add more modes. It's kind of up to discussion for the player, and also for us to kind of process, is this the right thing for the game, and is it right to expand the scope? I think we just want to be clearer on the scope and just allow people to understand what the game is and isn't a lot better than perhaps in Stormworks, where it's a lot more vague. So I don't know whether there will be a survival mode game where there aren't zombies waiting for you outside. Kind of might make sense if you're just like wanted to build your vehicles and test them. But I think the career mode is really the game experience we're intending to make, and this is intended to be a survival game. I understand it's not for everyone, and it might not suit everyone. But I think it's going to make a very interesting game, and I think a very interesting game for a lot of people. What will modding support, if any, be like? So this is a really good question. I think modding support is I suppose a two-edged sword with live development. I think my comment here is that I would love to see modding support in this game. However, I think there's always the issue with doing live development, i.e. we're updating the game, and then there's also modders modding the game, because I think you just end up with this problem. I think we're seeing it on Stormwork and Carrier Commands now, where a lot of the mods, it's difficult for us to add stuff, because if there's mods for that area of the game, then we'll break the mods, or the mods won't be as good. or we'll add a feature and it'll be missing from the mod, and then the mod will have to go and update. And if we're providing a modding API and then we change the API, we're breaking mods and so on. If there's mods that expand on the existing content of the game, those expansions will break if we change the base of the game. So I think we won't add modding while we are developing and adding content. We would add modding later on. If we do the modding, it would be added later on at the point where the core game, is a lot more stable and we're less worried about potentially doing changes to the game that will ultimately break players' mods effectively. But the game does have some technical features which potentially be very good for modders. We can maybe get into that at a later date. It's beyond the scope of this video. 2 more questions. Will the terrain be procedurally generated? Kind of discussed that. The actual terrain is static, but the forest and the decorations are procedural. When and where can we sign up for testing? I need to play the game, so I think you should have it on the screen right now. Sorry, I just clicked on the Stormworks page. The music will start playing there. Yep, you've got the Discord server. If you join the Discord server, you do /verify. That means you're applied for the closed beta. We'll start doing invites at some point, hopefully in weeks rather than months, but we'll see. And initially it'll be quite small. I don't know how the preferential inviting is going to work. We might initially look at people who've got a lot of stuff on the workshop, for example, a lot of subscriptions on the workshop, so I think that's kind of a fair way to do it. But definitely sign up, because we will expand and expand and expand until hopefully we're giving access to everyone who wants it over time. I think we just want to manage the scale of feedback we're getting back, because it's for the benefit of the game ultimately, in terms of just making the best game we can. So yeah, you can head over to the Discord, use the /verify command. You'll need to log in with your Steam, and then obviously do log in with your real Steam accounts that you're playing Stormworks with, because we might be looking at your workshop subscriptions and so on in order to prioritize who gets access earlier and who gets access later. And one more question then. Do engines still need a self-written ECU? So you can do it, but no, they don't. The Jeep that I was driving earlier does not have one. The mechanics of the engines are in some ways easier to use, and I think in that sense the engines work easier. They've kind of got like a built-in ECU, I suppose, and they're self-managing. You set the throttle, and that effectively sets the target RPS for the engine, so the engine self-governs the throttle. And it's about, I guess, making the game a little bit easier to play in some respects, while also having this rich depth to the actual building and the performance metrics and so on of the engine. Well, I think we better leave it there. It's been a very long stream. Thank you to everyone who has turned up. I really appreciate that. There's many of you who've turned up to listen to me talk and ramble about the game. I'm super excited about it. I've really enjoyed sharing this information, and I think the game's just going to get better and better to look at, as obviously the player creations are the best bit, right? I mean, the player creations are going to be, I think, absolutely incredible in this game, the level of detail and so on. So I'm really excited to share it with players, and I know that on day one there's going to be better creations than I can make coming out. I'm very excited for that. But yeah, I think I'm super grateful for everyone who's turned up. I think that for the Stormworks community, there's a massive thanks for everyone who's given the feedback on the game. I think this is accumulation of 8 years of feedback on Stormworks, of synthesizing that feedback and coming up with a game that maybe does better than Stormworks in some ways, and the cooperative building and so on is a big part of that. And so yeah, thank you to everyone who've given their feedback. Some stuff we've not been able to implement in Stormworks because it doesn't make sense, but it does make a lot more sense in the context of a new game, and I think we're hopefully going to see some of that here. So that's really exciting. Thank you to obviously everyone who's made Stormworks a success, the content creators and the workshop creators. Thank you to the people who help others in the community. I know there's some very, very kind people on Discord who spend a lot of their time helping other players, and you know that is acknowledged and respected. And thank you very much to the development team. We've worked on this for up to 5 years now, and the development team have done a lot of what you see here. I'm only one person on a team of 7, and yeah, like most of what you're seeing here is by other developers. They've done an incredible job. Thank you so much for your hard work, and thank you to everyone who's turned up to listen to me talk. Have a good day, and yeah, please do wishlist the game on Steam. It does make a huge difference to our metrics, and it just gives Steam visibility on the game coming, and ultimately that's hugely beneficial to us. So thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.